The colony yard was filled with the chatter of children, their voices echoing against the dull gray walls of the settlement. A group of younglings, both human and alien, tossed the ball back, and forth their laughter ringing through thin atmosphere. But away from the group sat a girl, her legs curled beneath her, awkwardly her thin arms hugging them tightly. She was not like the others, her skin pale, with a faint shimmer, her eyes too large for her small face. Her name was Lyra, and everyone knew she was. Different. When the ball bounced toward her, rolling to a stop near her, she shrank back instinctively. A boy called out, "Come on, throw it back," but she shook her head and whispered too quietly for most to hear, "Sorry, sir, I can't play ball." Her voice cracked with shame. Her left leg was twisted from birth, her right weak and fragile. Her people had given up on healing her long ago, leaving her to survive as best she could in a world that prized strength and agility. The others shrugged, lost interest, and ran back to their game, leaving her alone again, watching from the sidelines with quiet envy. She did not notice that someone else had been watching. A man leaned against the bulk of an old cargo hauler, his hands black with Grease's name. Was Jace, a human mechanic who worked at the colony docks. He had seen her sitting alone many times before, but today something in her words struck him. He could fix broken engines. He could mend shattered frames. Was it really impossible to help her? Jace wiped his hands on a rag and walked over. The ball still lay near Lyra, untouched. He crouched beside her, not too close, so she would not feel threatened. "You know," he said softly, "you don't have to be sorry about anything." She blinked at him, startled, then quickly lowered her gaze. "I can't play," she murmured again, as if repeating the words would make them true and permanent. "My legs don't work. I'm useless." Jace tilted his head, studying her face. His voice came out, gentle but firm. "Maybe your legs don't work the way theirs do, but that doesn't make you useless." Lyra lifted her gaze and quickly turned away. Her people never spoke kindly of her. They pitied her, at best ignored her, at worst the thought that someone might see her differently confused her. He held out the ball. "Go on, just hold it." She hesitated, then with trembling fingers took it into her hands. It felt strangely heavy, though perhaps it was only the weight of expectation pressing down. Jace smiled. "See, you can hold it already better than me. Sometimes my hands slip, all the time after working with tools." She gave a tiny startled laugh, the first in weeks. He stood brushing off his knees. "I work at the docks. If you ever want to see some real machines come by, I think you might like them." He left before she could answer, but his words echoed in her mind. For the first time, someone had invited her somewhere, not out of pity, but as if she were capable of being part of something. The next day, she limped slowly toward the docks, leaning on a crooked staff. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Machines of all sizes lined the lot. Jace was there, welding, sparks flashing around him. He looked up as she approached and grinned. "You'd come." He guided her gently toward a workbench. On it rested a strange, half-finished frame. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling with both fear and curiosity. He tapped the frame, a start of something that might help you. Over the next days, Jace worked tirelessly. He measured her legs carefully, always asking permission before touching. He asked about what she wanted, not what others thought she should need. She told him she wanted to run. Just once feel the ground rush beneath her like the others. He nodded and said then, "That's what well aimed for." He built braces with lightweight alloys joints that moved smoothly, powered by tiny energy cells salvaged from broken drones. He adjusted them over and over, never satisfied until they fit perfectly. At first, she was afraid to try. The thought of standing on her own filled her with dread. Jace knelt beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "No one is watching," he said softly. "It's just you and me, and this is only the beginning." Slowly, she let him fasten the braces to her legs. A hum of energy cells whispered through the air. He stepped back, take a breath, and trust him. She pressed her palms against the bench, pushed herself upward, and for the first time in her life, she rose tall. Her legs trembled, but they held. Tears blurred her vision. Jace caught her before she could stumble. "It's okay," he said firmly. "You're standing. That's more than enough for today." She clung to him, sobbing, quietly, not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that her dream might not be impossible anymore. Each day she returned. Each day they practiced. At first she only stood, then took a step, then another. Her laughter grew freer, louder. The children who once ignored her began to watch in awe as she slowly transformed. The girl who had whispered that she was useless now stood taller each sunrise. Weeks later, Jace rolled a ball toward her in the dockyard. She froze for an instant, the old fear rising. But then she kicked. It was clumsy, weak, but it flew through the air. She gasped, staring at her foot as if it belonged to someone else. Jace clapped, grinning. "You played ball." She laughed breathlessly and ran to chase at the braces, glowing faintly with each step. Her joy echoed across the yard. Word spread to the colony. Some mocked, calling it unnatural. Others were amazed, whispering that humans could fix anything. But for Lyra, The only thing that mattered was the way the wind brushed her face. As she ran, the children no longer left on the sidelines. They begged her to join. She still stumbled, still fell. But every time she rose again stronger. One evening after practice, she sat beside Jace, watching the suns fade over the horizon. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Quietly, no one else ever tried. He shrugged, wiping grease from his hands. "Because I hate to see potential wasted machines. People is the same. A broken thing doesn't mean a useless thing, just something waiting to be fixed." Her throat tightened. She whispered, "You gave me more than legs, you gave me hope." He shook his head. "Gently, you gave that to yourself. I only built the tools." Months later, a great festival came to the colony. There would be games, races, competitions. The children begged Lyra to join. She hesitated, the old doubt creeping back. But Jace knelt before her and looked into her wide eyes. "Remember, when you said, 'Sorry, sir, I can't play ball,' well, tomorrow you will show them all that you can." The next day the race began. The crowd roared as children sprinted forward. Lyra started slow, awkward, but her braces hummed steady. Jace watched from the sidelines, his chest tight with pride. She stumbled, fell, the crowd gasped, but then she pushed herself back up, faster this time, stronger. She reached the finish, not first, not last, but running, truly running for the first time in her life. When she crossed the line, tears streaming, her laughter filled the sky. She saw Jace waiting, arms wide, and she leapt into his embrace. For her, it was victory. For him, it was proof that nothing was beyond repair. And from that day on, no one ever heard her say, "I can't play ball again."